Think about a time when you wish someone could see where you were coming from, truly see. Now think about your students. What do you see? Do you really know how they feel or what they are thinking? Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." During this time together, we will develop a greater understanding of giftedness and how we can motivate our students by building a classroom that fosters creativity, offers acceleration, and diffuses boredom and underachievement. In addition to this presentation, you have a link to a handout with extension activities. These may be completed as an individual or in small groups. Let yourself think and reflect. Be honest with yourself and your colleagues. We all know that middle school years are complicated. Hormone changes, finding your place, or the never-ending drama can become a toxic mix for many adolescents. Add to the mix the things we cannot see, the things they carry in their heart and mind. What if that student is gifted? How do we help them and make them want to engage and succeed? To be able to do that, we need to take a look at what we know and how we think and teach. We are going to focus on the gifted and talented student, but remember, just because a student hasn't been identified, it doesn't mean they are not gifted. Let's start by looking at our feelings about behavior in the classroom. Which set of student behaviors do you prefer? First, let's take a look at set A: impulsive, nonconformist, disorganized, adventurous, and imaginative. Now set B: courteous, punctual, well-rounded, receptive, and obedient. Research tells us that most teachers prefer set B. Let's face it, teachers would have it a lot easier if all students fell into set B. But those set A characteristics, the ones many teachers dread, they're the common characteristics of a creative student. Take a moment. Choose one characteristic from set A, then list ways this can be a positive trait. Let's put the behavior characteristics and biases to the side, but not out of sight, and open a new set of characteristics, those of a gifted child. In your handout, you have an extensive list of gifted characteristics organized in 4 areas: cognitive, creative, affective, and behavioral. Keep in mind that no gifted child will possess all of these characteristics or in all areas. Highlight the characteristics that surprise you or that you think of in a negative way. Take a moment and reflect on students you've had in class that exhibit these characteristics. Were they successful in your room academically, behaviorally? Look at your next list. These are what we consider intensities or overexcitabilities, OEs. Polish psychologist Dabrowski identified 5 areas that children may exhibit intense behaviors: psychomotor, emotional, sensual, intellectual, and imaginational. Gifted children tend to have multiple intensities, but sometimes only one is dominant. We will take a brief view into each one. Lack of stimulation causes problems for gifted students with psychomotor intensities. Think of the student who's always moving, rapidly speaking, impulsive, physically expresses emotions, competitive, likes fast action or sports, or compulsively talks. Many times this student is misdiagnosed as having ADHD, but they can concentrate for long periods of time, unless they are not mentally stimulated. Students with emotional intensities can sometimes be mislabeled as having bipolar disorder or other emotional problems. Do you have a student that others describe as too emotional? Do they get anxious or physically respond to emotions like a headache or stomach ache? Are they shy? Do they have a concern for others or a stronger sense of injustice? Many of these students think there is something wrong with them, but they need encouragement to understand that these feelings and reactions are normal. Sally Trepanier shares about her middle school age son who is gifted with emotional intensities. A few weeks before school started back, he lost his beloved dog and grandfather within 2 weeks of each other. He had 2 weeks then to get it together before school started back. Trepanier took time to share what he had gone through with his teachers. However, the teachers did not understand emotional intensities or wonder why he was suddenly failing, not turning in homework, or not performing as expected. These teachers held to a belief that if someone is gifted, then they will automatically be successful in school. When he didn't meet their expectations, the teachers suggested he toughen up, work harder, and stop being lazy. By not seeing things through his eyes, they lost him. Take a moment and write a reflection. If this were your student, what would you have done? Then share your thoughts at your table. Students with sensual intensities have a heightened awareness in their senses. They have a deeper appreciation of beauty, a sensitivity to sounds, smells, and touch, and a need for comfort. This is the child who needs the toe seam on their sock to be perfectly aligned, or the child who won't eat foods like Jell-O because of the texture. We may not see how this could affect them in the classroom, but what about if you have a room deodorizer that bothers them? On the flip side, students with a sensual intensity have a heightened appreciation for music, art, and language, and sometimes they seek to be the center of attention. Discuss at your table 2 things. What are some things in your classroom that could be hurtful to a student with sensual intensities? What are some things that you could add to help these students? Let's take a look at intellectual intensities. This may be what you would most likely expect to talk about when discussing idiosyncrasies of gifted children. It is the most recognized. They're thinking all the time, wanting in-depth answers, and love problem solving. In addition, they are avid readers and think analytically and independently. However, they can also appear critical and impatient, even of a teacher's work. They need to be understood, but also see how their intent can be seen as disrespectful. Our last intensity to look at is imaginational intensity. Students with this intensity have a vivid and rich association with images and impressions. They will have elaborate dreams or mix truth with fiction. They create imaginary worlds and friends. They need some creativity in the classroom in order to fulfill this need, such as journaling, writing stories, or drawing. Now, in your packet, express how you connect to these intensities. Which intensities bother you? Now let's set these intensities aside and look at 2 other barriers these students have to deal with and what we need to understand in order to connect with them. The first is when a student is twice exceptional. The second are the sociocultural barriers our students face. Now let's set these intensities aside and look at 2 other barriers these students have to deal with and what we need to understand in order to connect with them. The first is when a student is twice exceptional. The second are the sociocultural barriers our students face. Twice exceptional learners, or 2Es, are students that are gifted while also having a learning disability. The sad reality is that many of these students are overlooked for giftedness because their ADHD, autism, or learning disorder blinds people to these students' gifts, which in turn will keep them from receiving gifted services while in public education. These students will not succeed just by trying harder. After this training, use the 2E table in your packet to list students who have an IEP or 504. Then review testing results for those students. Do you have any students that are identified as gifted? Do any of those test results show a potential for gifted identification? Take it a step further and discuss these students with your team or in your PLC. Create plans to help them with their gifts as well. Every school has sociocultural barriers. We're going to take a look at 2 prominent ones found in many middle schools. African American males may struggle to succeed and show us their true gifts and talents. These students encounter more barriers to identity development, particularly racial identity development, than white students. African American students find themselves in a dilemma in which they must choose between academic success and social acceptance. Black males are less likely to share their feelings and emotions with teachers and others interested in their welfare. Refer to the Minority Males page in your packet. This is a rating sheet on your current relationship with your minority male students. List the minority males in your classes and rate each relationship aspect. Focus on each student individually. What can you change in your classroom to see things from each boy's perspective and build a more positive relationship? Now challenge yourself. Add any male student to the list that you have challenges with. This is about seeing things through their eyes to help them succeed. More than half of public school students come from low-income families. Our current gifted programs may not be enough for these students. Jonathan Plucker, a gifted and special education professor from the University of Connecticut in Storrs, says this: "The mistake we've made in gifted education is we've turned identification into a pure testing issue." In a new longitudinal study in the 2015 book, A Nation Empowered, evidence trumps the excuses holding back America's brightest students. Only 11% of the advanced students were from the lowest 25% of family income, not even enough to measure if the acceleration methods were helpful enough. Deep down, we must know that our low-income students can be challenged and be successful at acceleration. In what is now considered the longest-running longitudinal survey of what happens to intellectually gifted children, the research shows that these top children grow into high-achieving adults. But the research also shows that if they aren't challenged enough, then they become bored, frustrated, and understimulated. So how do we move forward? See things through their eyes so that we can better serve them. I wish I could say that there was one quick fix, but there isn't. However, there are several things that we can do that will make us more effective and challenge not only our gifted students, whether identified or not. Plus, the bonus is that these changes will make our teaching environment better for everyone. Let's start with what we do in our classroom, because this may very well be the most important change we make. One of the most effective things we can do is analyze our classroom and teaching according to the 5 C's of student engagement: control, complexity, common bonds, choice, and caring teachers. The first 4 are connected to the curriculum and how things are managed in the school setting. Control often offends teachers, but what it really means is having your intelligence respected and served. For instance, one student in a study by James R. Delisle responded, "Teach us how to study." Another said, "Teachers should poll students to see what they already know and then not repeat that stuff over and over." Complexity is really about depth in learning. These children may finish work early, and is reading a book helping them? It certainly gives them something to do and helps decrease behavior issues, but who is benefiting? Students need to feel comfortable academically in the classroom. Having common bonds with other academically like students takes pressure off of students to perform or not to perform. Choice. It's about relevance and authenticity. With state mandates, this can be a difficult barrier to overcome. However, the prospect of allowing students to grow beyond our imagination is worth the extra effort. Brainstorm ways that you can change your classroom to help students have more control and create ways of offering choice and complexity. In addition, what changes would need to take place in the school or with scheduling to create stronger common bonds? The 5th C is caring teachers. When pre-service and experienced teachers were asked to describe effective teachers, caring was mentioned more than any other variable. This can actually override the other 4 C's. Doesn't that seem to be the key? Nearly 40% of teachers say they were inspired to teach because of a caring teacher. Think of your favorite teacher. What made them stand out? How did you know they cared about you? Most everyone has watched Mr. Feeney on Boy Meets World. Over the years of the show, Mr. Feeney built a relationship with Corey, Topanga, Eric, and Sean. Take a minute and watch this clip of a classic TV teacher.
We wanted to know if you had anything else left to teach us.
Believe in yourselves. Dream. Try. Do good.
Well, I guess there's just one thing left then. Tell us you love us.
Now look, if there's one thing I've taught you is that there is a line between teacher and student that must never be crossed.
Tell us you love us.
I regard all my students equally.
Come on, Feeney. You haven't even talked to another student for 7 years. I mean, you might... Tell us you love us.
I surely will not.
Okay for you, then.
I will never forget you. You were more of a father to me than my own dad.
I don't know what's gonna happen to me. But I do know that I'm gonna be a good person who cares about people. And I blame you for that. You, never give up on me. Never once. I'm not gonna forget you. You're the best person I know.
You coming with us, Mr. Feeney? You gonna sneak up on us in Central Park or something?
No, I shall remain here.
No, you'll always be with us. As long as we live, okay?
I love you all. Class dismissed.
We started off this presentation thinking about a time we wanted to be seen for who we truly are. As teachers, we have many tasks to juggle. But if we want our students to succeed, be motivated to learn, and feel validated in that process, then we must realize we are the key to that success. In a study by Robert J. Walker, 12 characteristics of effective teachers have surfaced. Take a look at this list. Notice how many of them are reflections of intensities and creative characteristics. Prepared, positive, high expectations, creative, fair. They display a personal touch, cultivates a sense of belonging, compassionate, has a sense of humor, respects students, forgiving, and admits mistakes. Last reflection. What can you bring to creating a school where we work to see things through our students' eyes?